It created headlines when Baldoni's now dismissed lawsuit brought up Blake Lively's friend Taylor Swift. Swift was subpoenaed when text exchanges between Baldoni and Lively were revealed to include the name Taylor. Swift's representative says she was not involved in the movie in any way beyond licensing one song for the film. And at the time, you slammed Baldoni's team for bringing Taylor Swift into this.
What's happening, to the extent you can tell us, with Taylor Swift? Because there was some reporting that you wanted to get the text messages between Blake Lively and Taylor, and that there was a potential for subpoena Taylor Swift, in this case, via document subpoena to get her texts and possibly even a deposition. And then that her father allegedly came to you and said, I will tell you what's in the text. And the reason I'll tell you is because Blake Lively's threatening my daughter, Taylor Swift, that if she doesn't speak out on Blake Lively's behalf, that Blake Lively's going to retaliate in some way. So tell us what you can.
Sure. Just out of respect for, people that aren't parties to the lawsuit, there's not a whole lot that I can get into. But I think that people who are relevant to the case and people who, have otherwise been with people from the beginning of the case, side by side, shoulder by shoulder, are potentially witnesses in the case. Those are things that we need to look into. Those are things to see, what, in addition to what we know already, we need. And then to move forward and obtain that discovery. There's a short leash on how far we can go with discovery. I think the judge has made it very clear that third parties need to be directly relevant to claims, and we think certain third parties are directly relevant. But it's just whether or not you need that evidence in addition to what you have already.
She filed a protective order for texts with Taylor Swift. Just listen to this. Blake Lively asked a judge on Friday to close the door on discovery related to Taylor Swift and her ongoing legal battle with her It Ends With Us co-star and director Justin Baldoni. She asked the judge to block Baldoni's lawyers from obtaining communications between Lively and Smith, saying that they are irrelevant to the case. They are now seeking to exclude Swift from the dispute once and for all, arguing, this is the best part, arguing that Baldoni's team has simply used Swift's name to generate tabloid fodder without legitimate legal purpose. But guys, this is so ironic because wasn't it Blake who was being accused of blackmailing Taylor Swift into making a public statement of support about her by threatening to release texts? But now she wants to cover them up. Like, now that Taylor Swift stepped in and said, actually, I want nothing to do this, I will actually hand information over to Baldoni's team because I don't want to be involved. Now Blake's trying to protect this friendship and protect these very, very private texts. I mean, now I just want to know what's in them. Like, if you are willing to file a protective order, if you were willing to use them for blackmail, there must be something good in there. I mean, genuinely, it seems like Blake is the one who is more interested in using her friend for her case. It seems like she is the one who wants to bring Taylor's name into this repeatedly, time and time again, not Justin Baldoni's team.
You won't believe how fast this courtroom twist flipped the spotlight from Wayfair back onto Blake Lively. And yeah, Taylor Swift is suddenly in the crossfire again. Let me tell you, last week Blake marched into court claiming Wayfair kept dragging Taylor into this, so she wanted a protective order to hide every single text she ever swapped with Taylor, or asked Ryan Reynolds to trade for good measure. And here's the kicker. According to attorneys close to the case, Blake insisted those messages are irrelevant, that Taylor knows nothing, and that Wayfair already grabbed them from someone else anyway, so, why should Blake hand them over? Wayfair's lead counsel, Fritz, scorched-earth Kevin, fired back the same day with a cross motion to compel, accusing Blake of producing nothing. Not one doc about harassment, retaliation, or those eye-watering economic damage claims. And he implied Blake is the one who first spotlighted Taylor by naming her in initial disclosures as a key witness with percipient knowledge. So why the sudden panic over sharing their chats? Evidence is starting to point to a possible mismatch between Blake's public narrative and her own filings. Hang on, because Fritz attached receipts. Emails showing Blake's team scheduled a meet and confer for June 13, then filed the protective order motion minutes beforehand and allegedly refused to talk once the call began. They're saying that's straight-up gamesmanship. File first, spin the headlines, stall discovery. Meanwhile, Wayfair argues Taylor has never handed them Blake's texts, so Blake can't claim duplication. According to an expert familiar with Federal Rule 34, if you list a witness, you cough up the non-privileged messages, period. But Blake keeps insisting Taylor isn't central to the case. Cool story, except her amended disclosures, signed under penalty of perjury, still flagged Taylor as knowing all about production drama, publicity battles, and that alleged retaliation campaign. So, what's in those chats? Could they debunk Blake's emotional distress claims by showing she happily dined with Taylor, Travis, Ryan, and company in Auckland last October? Wayfair thinks so, and they dropped a paparazzi footnote to prove the meetup. Then there's Sony and WME. Wayfair says third parties have coughed up docs, yet Blake herself hasn't. If those agencies knew about misconduct or contract fallout, any silence on Blake's side could shred her damages narrative. And don't forget Baldoni. His contract chatter runs straight through Sony. If Blake told executives one story in private and tells the court another, that gap could explode. Evidence is starting to point to that very risk. Wayfair also laughed off Blake's claim of an ongoing smear campaign, noting she demands every reporter's name they've spoken to, even for quotes reacting to her own press blitz. One lawyer quipped, "If we're talking to journalists, it's because your camp keeps calling them first." Now, about Ryan Reynolds, he was dismissed from most claims, yet Blake still waives his interrogatories to complain. Wayfair won't answer. Wayfair counters, "Hey, Ryan's out, so why chase irrelevant info?" Sounds like someone's trying to control the narrative from the shadows, doesn't it? Court watchers suggest Blake's pattern, file, publicize, delay, mirrors classic, run to the judge first, tactics narcissistic litigants use to stay a step ahead of looming discovery bombs. According to a source close to the defense, Wayfair's patience is thinning fast. Meanwhile, speculation about the presiding judge's industry ties keeps bubbling online, but legal analysts remind us Wayfair hasn't sought recusal yet, partly because any motion could just boomerang back to the same courtroom and stall things further. So where does that leave us? Simple. If Blake wants big damages, she has to hand over proof, texts, emails, ledgers, the works. If she keeps stonewalling, Wayfair could win sanctions, and jurors might wonder what she's hiding. Let's get into it in the comments. Do you think those Taylor Blake messages will surface, or will Blake manage another legal sidestep? Can Wayfair flip public opinion by exposing contradictions? Stay tuned, because the next hearing could be fireworks. Smash that like button, tap subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next update on this Hollywood meets courtroom saga. Thanks for watching.